We've spent a lot of focus, of course, on bed sores, but there's the other word, which is nursing home liability. And I'm kind of interested in hearing what are the categories of cases that you deal with on the nursing home generally, aside from bed sores.
Sure. So obviously bed sores are a big part of the type of injury that we're going to litigate for violation of a nursing home regulation. The others are, of course, falls and fractures. That would be probably the second most common. And in fact, today, at least over the past 3 or 4 years, I would say that falls and fractures have either surpassed bed sores or is equal to it.
Okay.
And again, that goes to the low staffing at these facilities. So, for example, somebody who's needs assistance to go to the bathroom, and they're a person who needs 2 persons to assist them versus 1. The nursing home doesn't have the staff to do it. They only have 1 person. The person gets up, they fall, they fracture their hip, they fracture their femur, they fracture their arm. Those are actionable cases. And pretty much any fall and fracture in a nursing home for a person who is not mobile, meaning they can't get up and move around on their own, is probably going to be a case. You also have medication errors, which have been increasing, okay? The lack of staff, unfortunately, when residents come from a hospital into the nursing home, the medications that they come over with aren't accurately recorded. The dosages aren't accurately recorded. They're discontinued without a full investigation into the need for the medications. So we see a lot of that, particularly with the psychotropic drugs. There's also sexual abuse. There's abuse by aides on residents. There's resident-on-resident abuse or resident-on-resident assault. I've handled a number of those cases, and it happens again because the nursing home isn't looking out and advocating for these residents.
What are some of the common defenses that nursing homes use in resisting the kind of claims you just outlined?
So what's ironic, and I'm doing these cases now, litigating these cases for 20 years, the biggest defense the nursing home, particularly in a bedsore case, likes to put up is the fact that the nursing home resident is old and sick and has comorbidities, whether it be diabetes, whether it be dementia, and that their illnesses somehow lessen the liability of the nursing home, and that the nursing home did, quote, the best they could, and we shouldn't be held responsible. And I find, as a trial lawyer who has picked, many juries and tried many of these cases, that is very off-putting to jurors, because an elderly person who needs help and needs care is in the facility for that very reason. Mm-hmm. And to argue that their illnesses and comorbidities somehow should punish them when they haven't been provided that care is something that doesn't go over very well. But interestingly, defendants still use that defense. They also will now hire doctors who are willing to come in and say that for example, in a bedsore case, that the bedsore was unavoidable because the person was so sick that they either weren't eating or their lab values show that there's no way they could have healed even if a minor sore started. So in those types of cases, we dig down really deep into the labs to disprove what those defense doctors are saying. But for the most part, the defense is that they're old and sick and we did the best we could, but that just doesn't fly, and that's not the law.
Talk about the duty of care. How does that relate to, generally speaking, allegations against a nursing home in addition to the bedsores?
Yeah, so the duty of care in a nursing home is the same as it would be, generally. But in a nursing home setting, of course, we have that's statutes and those regulations. So the duty of care in a nursing home in New York State really equates to that each person is an individual. You can't look at a person and put together a generalized care plan. It has to be specific to that individual. So if that duty is breached and an injury occurs, then you have the makings of a liability claim. To give you an example, if somebody comes into the facility, into the nursing home, and they have difficulty swallowing. Okay, they need to be provided with a swallowing test. They need to have speech, evaluate them. If that's not done and their nutrition, and they have difficulty eating and they start losing weight and have other problems, well, again, that's the beginnings of a liability. So it's really an analysis of the care plan. Did the care plan that was put in place, did that address all of the needs of that resident? And that's where you have to have a really good expert, geriatrician and nurse to help you evaluate the records when you review them to see if you have the makings of a claim, with respect to the duty of care.
Let's talk about claims against nursing homes and the issue that's very important called statute of limitations.
Yeah. So under the New York State public health law, which is really codified negligence, you can bring it's a 3-year statute of limitations. Unlike in a medical malpractice claim where we have a 2.5-year statute of limitations. But again, you have to be really careful if you're going to litigate these cases because there are times when you have to bring a medical malpractice claim for failures that occur in the nursing home. Let me give you a brief example. I just finished a case, we settled it during jury selection, that involved the placement of a PEG tube where a person had gotten a PEG tube because they weren't eating and they needed the PEG tube for nutrition and medication. That PEG tube displaced or migrated while the resident was in the nursing home. So the attending physician in the nursing home was responsible to monitor that person, and when that person started showing signs of that migration of the PEG tube, needed to do certain things that he did not do. So we had to bring a separate medical malpractice claim against him within the setting of the nursing home. So you have to be careful and you have to analyze your claims carefully because there can be crossover.
What is the role of an expert witness in both from the nursing home perspective and from the plaintiff perspective?
That's an excellent question because you want to have both, whether it's a fall case or a bedsore case, because you want to analyze, certainly from a nursing perspective, was the care plan that was put into place, A, was it appropriate, and B, was it implemented properly? So a nurse is very key because the nurse is going to outline for you, certainly at trial and certainly in trial prep and preparing you for depositions, what should have been done from a nursing perspective. And a nurse can testify about care in a facility that does not reach the level that the regulations require. However, what a nurse cannot do at trial is link those violations to the ultimate injury, whether it's the bedsore or the fall. You need a physician to do that. So the nurse sort of sets the table from their review of the records. These are the violations we see. And then the doctor will testify about how those violations were causally linked to the injuries that occurred.
It is very clear, just listening to you, your remarkable expertise in terms of the nursing home litigation generally, bedsores in particular. How active is this kind of litigation field, and what has been the steady or the growth of this particular litigation?
So a couple of things. Certainly, as our population ages, we have a much higher percentage of persons living longer. So there are more persons who need care. One thing that we've seen over the past several years is that there's been a push by the federal government based on their reimbursement rates to have more people, instead of going to nursing homes, be taken care of at home with either home health aides or with what's known as community Medicaid. So there's when the private equity groups got into the nursing home business, which they've been in for a very long time, but have increased their stake over the years, we've seen the quality of the care go down. So unfortunately, even though we like to think that each case we take and litigate is successfully is a way to hold the nursing home responsible such that they would do better. To be honest with you, I really don't see that. And I see the profit motive of these nursing homes really being their focus as opposed to resident-centered care.